Hello and welcome to another episode of Word Mentality, where I look at the origin of words, their etymology, where they came from, in the hope that you use those words and spell those words correctly in the future. Today I'm taking my inspiration from the classic Aussie comedy Kath and Kim. In particular, a scene in the kitchen where Kath is talking about going on a specific cruise. In reply to this, Sharon asks her, where specifically in the specific were you going to go? Now there's a couple of issues with this sentence. Primarily, the problem is that Sharon has mixed up the words Pacific and specific. And this is something that people do. The other problem is the word use, and we'll come back to that later. But first of all, let's try and clear up this specific and Pacific. The word specific is just when you have clearly identified something, like which thing you're specifically going to do. You're clearly identifying or defining something. The word Pacific is a word that's been around for a long time, and so I'm going to look at the origin of that to try and clear up this confusion. Pacific actually comes from this old French word pacifique and this Latin word pax, which means peace. So we've got the Latin here, and we've got the French here. And then over time, this has ended up with the English word Pacific. To find the origin, we sort of go back to about 1519, and there was a Portuguese explorer called Ferdinand Magellan. And he was coming down around South America, and he came around Cape Horn, and then he came through what are now known as the Straits of Magellan, named after him, and then he came out to a huge body of water that he had never seen before, and on that particular day it was beautiful and calm and peaceful, and that was what we now know as the Pacific Ocean, the largest ocean in the world. Now, the Pacific Ocean is not always calm and peaceful. In fact, it has some of the most treacherous waters on Earth. But on this particular day, when Ferdinand sailed through, it was calm and peaceful. And so he named it the Mar Pacifico, which is Spanish, but in English that would be the Pacific Sea or the Pacific Ocean. Pacific meaning calm or peaceful. So it was a calm and peaceful ocean on that day. We get other words from the word Pacific that are around this calm and peaceful idea. And in fact, you can use the word Pacific to describe something like a mood. You know, it could be pacific and calm. But we get other words such as pacify. So if you want to calm down a situation, stop an argument, you might pacify. In America, they tend to call a dummy that a baby has to calm it down, a pacifier. And then if you are someone who objects to war and believes in peace from pax, the Latin, then you would be known as a pacifist. So these are all words that come from the word Pacific, but when we have it with a capital as a proper noun, we're referring to the Pacific Ocean, and that comes from our explorer Magellan. So that clears up specific, to clearly identify something, and the word Pacific. The other problem in this sentence is use. Now I'm being a bit unfair to poor old Sharon here because she didn't actually say use, but I wanted to talk about that because it is another issue that comes up a fair bit. So let's talk about that now. Okay, so we've cleared up specific, which is something that is clearly defined or identified, and Pacific, which if it has capital letters is the proper noun referring to the Pacific Ocean, but if it is lowercase is just a word that means calm or peaceful, so it can be used as an adjective. But let's talk quickly about the word use. When people say use, what they're really trying to say is you. And the confusion comes because you is a pronoun that is the same in the singular or the plural in English. And so if we want to say you, as in I'm talking to one specific person, the singular, then I'll get a different colour pen here, then the word would be you. But if we want to say you must rise up against the government, if you're fomenting a rebellion and you're talking to a huge mass of people, that is also the word you in English. It can be one person or it can be thousands of people. Now this is confusing, and it's natural, I think, to want to put an S on the end of that, and that's where the mistake comes. If you look at other languages, then many other languages have a different word for the singular and the plural of this pronoun you. For example, if we look at French, if you want to say you singular in French, then you would use the word tu. But if you want to say you in the plural in French, then you would use the word vous, V-O-U-S. Very differently spelt words. So it's very clear in this case. And so you can imagine, especially for people who have learned, who have grown up with one language where this happens and then go to learn English, that it's very hard to get your head around this idea. So it trips up people new to English, and it trips up English-speaking people as well. So the confusion comes because we want to put an S on the end. You just need to remember that when you go to say use, there's no such word. I mean, there is the word use, as in to use something. There's the word use, as in more than one sheep. But there's no word that is spelt Y-O-U-S-E. You may think you're being more Pacific when you use the word use, but you just need to remember that just like Pacific, when you mean specific, to use the word use is incorrect. Thank you.